Every time there has been a magnetic pole excursion, there has been a shifting of Earth's geography. It's well known that Antarctica has evidence below the ice of a once warm and temperate climate before previous shifts brought it into its current colder position. Ancient maps of Antarctica exist. These maps show the coastline underneath the ice. The old maps must have been drawn well before the current much colder position was established under 4 kilometers of ice. This theory is consistent with the geography of the land. All of the evidence being unearthed in this subject area indicates that the continents will move again during the next pole shift, due to the unlocking of the Earth's core, which is likely to bring Antarctica back from one of the coldest regions on the planet to a warmer, temperate area of the globe. I am sure some of you are wondering what this will mean for living creatures on the planet. Well, what we know from the evidence is that these shifts in the continents occurred very quickly indeed, moving some continents from a warm and temperate climate to extremely cold areas of the planet, and vice versa. Just look at the woolly mammoths that have been found over the last few decades. They had undigested grasses, sedges, and herbs in their stomachs. They also had partially chewed plant material in their mouths, and their intestinal contents were still present. Even blood, muscle tissue, and internal organs were perfectly preserved. This was not a gradual loss of species and the slow decay of their bodies. They were essentially very quickly frozen where they were standing. As well as the archaeological evidence, there is plenty of geological evidence of rapid environmental changes. Scientists have analyzed ancient lava flows and other igneous rocks which show sudden changes in magnetic polarity. These changes can be correlated with significant changes in the Earth's climate. This is hard evidence of previous magnetic excursions and their catastrophic effects on Earth's ecosystems. However, it is not just the geological evidence that warns us of these massive global changes. Humans have left us plenty of clues about how these devastating changes have occurred. There are many ancient stories from around the world that have been left for us, passed down over hundreds of generations by witnesses of the previous 6,000-year regular pole shifts and global cataclysms. Let's look at some of the common themes of these stories, which can be linked to the effects of magnetic pole shifts. Let's start with the Popol Vuh, which is often described as the Mayan Bible. This document dates back to the 1500s and is made up of the original oral stories that were passed down, generation to generation over thousands of years. It describes a time when the sun did not rise properly. The world was said to have existed in dim light, followed by destruction and renewal. It also says that humans were unfinished before being wiped out. These stories are likely to reflect prolonged lingering atmospheric dust, volcanism impacts, or a reduced solar shielding during geomagnetic instability, all related to a previous magnetic excursion. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a well-known collection of Sumerian literature. It is one of the oldest known literature works in the world. It originated in ancient Mesopotamia and has been dated to around 2100 BCE. It describes a catastrophic flood and a time when the sky darkened. There were violent winds and climate chaos. Survivors describe terror and divine punishment. This is very interesting when you think about it, because Mesopotamia has well-known flood-prone regions with high solar vulnerability if the magnetosphere weakens. Evidence of the flood is plain to see in archaeological records. The Book of Exodus is a Hebrew text, the second book of the Bible. It describes darkness that could be felt for several days and fire falling from the sky, as well as water turning bitter and chaos in nature. What's fascinating is that this is not a normal eclipse description. It seems to point to a description of ionized skies, thick particulates, and prolonged solar disruption. These impacts on our planet are consistent with the impacts from a magnetic pole excursion. The Rig Veda is an Indian text and one of the oldest religious texts in the world. It is thought to have been compiled from ancient accounts passed down from previous generations from around 1900 BCE. It describes a time when the sun behaved erratically. The sky burned, the heavens shook. There were long nights and cosmic disorder. These graphic accounts seem to describe plasma-like phenomena and atmospheric ionization consistent with intense solar storms, another worrying symptom of a magnetic pole excursion. The Norse Edda is the culmination of two ancient Icelandic texts that are the main sources of Norse mythology. These include stories of gods like Odin, Thor, Loki, and the prophecy of Ragnarok, which describes the end of the world. These texts were written down in Iceland in the 1200s, but they preserve much older oral traditions from the Viking Age, roughly 800 to 1100 AD. The Edda refers to Fimbul winter, which describes 3 sunless winters and a time when the sky burned, the stars fell, and the gods perished. It also refers to a time when the world resets. This is interesting because, as we know, northern latitudes are extremely sensitive to geomagnetic collapse, auroras at ground level, climate chaos, etc. Many well-known researchers in this area refer to a magnetic pole shift as a repeating world reset, a time when any remaining humans that are left on the planet have to band together to rebuild society after a significant global cataclysm. The Chinese scriptures include the Annals of the Bamboo Books. These passages talk about a time when the sun rose late or not at all. There was a frost in summer and a time when heaven was out of order. This is very significant indeed, as China keeps unusually careful astronomical records. Based on their attention to detail, these accounts stand out as anomalous even to them, and a stark warning of a cataclysmic event which we may need to be prepared for. Then there are the writings of Plato. These texts refer to a time when Atlantis was destroyed in a single terrible day and night. It refers to earthquakes, floods, disappearance of civilization. We know that rapid sea level rise events did occur at the end of the last ice age, some shockingly fast. These changes can almost certainly be linked back to magnetic pole excursions. Then there are the Indigenous Australian dreaming stories from multiple Indigenous nations. These stories talk about a time when the sky fell, the sun vanished, and the land was swallowed by water and fire came from above. These stories preserve real sea level rise memory going back 7,000 to 12,000 years with astonishing oral fidelity. And critically, we know that there is clear established archaeological evidence of a flood that tie in with these stories. When considering all of these ancient stories that have been passed down by word of mouth and documented in ancient texts, etc., it is plain to see that there is a magnetic pole connection. A repeating disaster keeps on happening. When Earth's magnetic field weakens or becomes unstable, we know that the following impacts are expected. Solar radiation penetrates deeper into the Earth's atmosphere. Electrical phenomena appears in the sky. The Earth's climate destabilizes rapidly. Ice melts and ocean circulation shifts considerably. Volcanic activity increases worldwide, and there are biological and societal stress spikes. What's more, the known excursions all line up with megafauna extinctions, abrupt cooling events, cultural collapses, massive atmospheric changes. Ancient people didn't have magnetometers. They had stories. It cannot be a coincidence that the ancient stories sound the same everywhere. These common themes provide a consistent warning to future generations. Across continents, cultures describe the same common cataclysmic themes. Here, they are in table form. This is not coincidence. It is pattern memory. The big takeaway is that these ancient stories aren't just myths. They are very important compressed disaster records, encoded in narratives so they could survive thousands of years without writing them down. We need to heed these warnings and prepare for the next magnetic pole shift and global cataclysm.